I moved from Vietnam to Seattle when I was in my early 20s. My family was very poor in Vietnam, and there weren't many opportunities for me back home. I didn't know much about the places on the west coast of America, but I heard that Seattle was a welcoming city for immigrants, with plenty of ways to make good money. My little brother also moved with me in hopes of getting a good education once we could afford it, and since then, we've been working our asses off. After about a year, I became good friends with one of my co-workers. Right around then, the 4th of July was coming up. That's when the three of us planned a trip out to the best beach my friend knew about, which was a place called Ocean Shores. On the morning of July 4th, we bought some bootleg fireworks and a bottle of whiskey. Then in the evening, we piled into my friend's car and made our way to the beach. We all shared the bottle, enjoyed the views with the other beachgoers, set off fireworks. It was quite the blast. Some cops came and kicked us off the beach, saying the fun was over. We decided to head back to Seattle, but before then, we wanted to grab some snacks and soda for the road. We pulled up to the nearest gas station, and that's when our wonderful night ended. There was a small group of men standing around a case of beer in front of the store. They were waving a big flag I didn't recognize, so I asked my friend about it. He said it was the Confederate flag, or as he put it, something very bad. As soon as we stepped out of the car, all their attention was on me and my brother. They shouted nasty things at us, a lot of which I won't speak.
Hey, BTS! K-pop boys! We don't want you here!
Hey, we're leaving. We just want some sodas first.
Maybe you didn't understand my English. I said go back to your country and buy it over there, dipshit!
Dude, just ignore them. They're drunk.
We managed to get into the store, but I knew it wasn't over. They were watching us through the windows. The main guy kept banging on the glass and yelling to get our attention. Then every time we caved in and looked, he would run a finger across his throat. The thought that they wanted to harm us freaked me the hell out. My friend tried to tell me they wouldn't actually do anything, but I'd never encountered such an angry person before, so I was terrified. Thinking I might need to defend myself, I looked for weapons. That's when I found some small knives on a shelf, so while the cashier was distracted, I took 2 out of their packaging and put them in my pocket, one for me and one for my brother. I felt bad for stealing, but I was scared of not being able to defend myself against those freaks. After a few minutes, we got what we wanted from the store and checked out, which led us to the hard part, getting past those jerks and into the car. The moment we went out the door, they were surrounding us and yelling in our faces. They kept trying to get us to fight them, but we just wanted to leave. By sticking together, we got out the store, made it to the car, and got inside. We quickly locked the doors, but then, just as we thought we were safe, they blocked us from leaving. The car was completely surrounded, so there was no way for my friend to get away without running them over. I was panicking. Out of nowhere, the same guy that was outside his window started punching the glass and screaming. I could tell he was getting under my brother's skin, but I had no idea what would happen next.
Why don't you come out of the car and make me something from Amazon?
Leave us alone, you asshole!
What did you call me? Come out and fight me then! Come on, fight me like a man, you little bitch!
Then, in the blink of an eye, my brother unlocked the door and opened it. The man outside ripped it open and pulled my brother out, then started attacking him. I rushed out to stop it, but by the time I got there, my brother was on the ground and wasn't moving, while that asshole was still standing over him and screaming at him. For the first and only time in my life, I truly lost control of myself. That's when I took the knife out of my pocket and did the unthinkable. I didn't think. I just kept stabbing him without holding myself back. I don't know how long it went before I was finally pulled off. I was relieved as I saw my brother getting up, but then I noticed what I had done to that man. He was on the ground lifeless. As the cops came and took me to jail, all I could think about was that I had ruined both my life and my brother's. I would go to prison or get deported. Then he would be on his own. Luckily, however, that wasn't the case. My trial went back and forth for months, but the jury eventually ended up in a stalemate, and I wasn't tried again. Still, what happened that night still haunts me, as I'm sure it haunts the friends and family of the man I took out. I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to protect my brother. I hope everyone can understand that. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a male named Main Duck Hong. who stabbed his harasser Christopher Kinnison 23 times on the 4th of July. Hong, his brother, and a friend were all visiting from Seattle when they pulled into a Texaco station shortly after 1 a.m. to get a snack. Kinnison, drinking beer with a small crowd in the parking lot, waved a Confederate battle flag and yelled racial slurs at them. Once the three were inside, Kinnison banged on the store's window, pointed at them through the glass and repeatedly drew his finger across his throat. Outside, one witness said she asked Kinnison what he was doing. "It's called racism," was his reported answer. Hong stole the 2 small paring knives from the store, later testifying that he was frightened. Kinnison and his friends screamed at the three and even spat on them as they made their way back to the car. Kinnison then blocked their path when they tried to drive away, and punched Hong's brother when they got out of the car. Hong admitted that he did try to stab Kinnison, but he said he was unsure if his blows had connected. The case split the town. Some complained that Hong was not being prosecuted accordingly, while others angrily criticized authorities for trying him at all, noting that Kinnison had recently been involved in a series of past racially driven incidents. Hong was ultimately freed in his manslaughter trial. My roommates and I were watching TV one night when all of us got hit with the munchies. They wanted to order delivery, but I felt like cooking, so I decided to save us all some money and guarantee the food would be good by making homemade hamburgers. I just had to run out and grab everything I needed for it. The only place that had all that stuff so late at night was Walmart, so I booked it over there myself while I still had some time before they closed. Luckily, it was only a few minutes away, and the parking lot seemed almost completely empty. I parked close to the front, expecting to get in and out quickly without any crowds or cars getting in my way. I sort of had tunnel vision on my task, so I didn't see anyone around. That is, until some random guy pushed past me as we both were entering the Walmart at the same time. The guy just brushed shoulders with me pretty abruptly and just ran off into the store, laughing under his breath. I didn't want to confront the guy either. He was either mentally ill or just a troublemaking teen I didn't want any problems with. I just hoped he didn't end up in the same part of the store as me. Unfortunately, when I made my way to the produce section, that weirdo was already there. He didn't have a cart or basket. It looked like he was just loitering around the cases and laughing. Then, I realized he was filming himself as he wandered around, taking close-ups of certain fruits and vegetables while giggling like a snotty little kid up to no good. It was weird as hell. Of course, I was trying my best not to stare, despite the fact it was just me and him in that section of the store. I couldn't tell exactly what he was doing, or why the potatoes and apples were so funny to him. I didn't want to get too close to him either, so I had to linger on the opposite side of the section, waiting for him to move on so I could get the stuff I wanted. Whenever he glanced over at me, we'd only make eye contact for a split second before I looked away. Even though it was only for a tiny moment, it felt like we locked eyes, and I had to tear mine away. His presence made the empty store feel packed, like I couldn't get away from him or get around him. We made eye contact 3 or 4 times, and each time I looked down until I felt like he was looking away. Then, the last time we locked eyes, I looked down, and a second later, he was right in front of me.
Stop looking at me!
I'm sorry. I wasn't, I swear.
What do you want from me? Huh?
Nothing. I'm just trying to buy groceries, man.
You disgust me. I think you deserve exactly what's coming to you.
What?
Stay away from me or I'll shove a cucumber up your ass! Though I'm sure you'd enjoy it.
As quickly as that freak became a problem, he just walked away. I was completely at a loss there for a minute, but I eventually realized he wasn't coming back. I gathered everything I needed and checked out, seeing no sign of him on my way back to my car. When I got home, I told my roommates about what happened. My roommates and I laughed it off, trying not to let the incident ruin the night. I was ready to forget about it and start cooking. About an hour later, the 3 of us all had chowed down on the burgers I cooked. We cleaned up the mess in the kitchen and put away the leftover veggies, then watched TV for a little while longer before finally heading to bed. Once all the distractions were gone though, I started thinking about that freak at Walmart again. What the hell was his deal? All I could see was his gross face bearing down on me. It was like he followed me into my dreams, turning them into horrible nightmares. Suddenly, I shot awake. I thought the pain was just in my dreams, but I actually was kneeled over in agony, throwing up everything and convulsing uncontrollably. I slid off my bed and crawled over to my roommate's room to get help, but they were sick just like me. The entire apartment was in chaos. We had to call 911 and get transported to the hospital because we all thought we were going to die. The doctors told us that we must have gotten food poisoning, and they pointed to my burgers as it was the last thing we had all eaten together. For days, I felt so guilty. Even though we were recovering, I felt terrible for putting my roommates through that, and I didn't think I'd ever feel confident enough to cook again. Then, a news story broke about a guy who had gone viral for spraying pesticides and rat poison on vegetables at Walmart. When I saw his face, it was the same guy that harassed me that night. He was arrested, and I was exonerated in the eyes of my roommates. But ever since then, I still don't feel the same. If there's people like that freak blatantly poisoning food right on the shelves of the grocery store, how can I ever trust any of the food I buy? This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a 27-year-old man named Charles Smith. Smith was involved in a viral bizarre incident where he was seen spraying grocery items with chemicals at a Walmart. He is facing charges of introducing poison, criminal damage, endangerment, and theft for his actions. Smith told police he makes as much as $10,000 a month being a troll on social media. That money may now be spent on legal fees and his $25,000 bond. Residents are disgusted, and Walmart shoppers in Mesa reacted to hearing about the man charged for spraying bug spray on food sold to customers. Smith posted the video on his TikTok and Instagram accounts. In the video, he takes a can of bug spray around the store, spraying produce and meat. Smith posted 2 update videos claiming he threw the contaminated food away, but he is seen gathering only some of the fruit and vegetables in a cart. He then rolls into a Walmart trailer parked behind the store. He has since deleted all 3 videos. Mesa police noted that the time between Smith spraying the produce and returning to put them in a cart was enough time for shoppers to pick up the contaminated produce unknowingly. Walmart in a statement said the contaminated produce was removed. Court documents say Tempe police has an active case against him. Smith had turned himself into the police on December 21st, making himself the latest in a line of internet trolls facing consequences of crimes caught on camera. Smith faces an abundance of charges for his crimes. I used to be a high school English teacher a few years ago. Along with being a teacher, I was a single father to my daughter named Quinn. She was an outdoorsy, adventurous type of person. One thing she really enjoyed, especially during the summertime, was the water park. There was more than enough excitement for her to have fun, and just enough space for me to relax while making sure she stayed out of trouble. One day, close to the end of the school year, I took Quinn to the water park as a reward for getting through all of her exams. When I got there and looked around, I found out everyone else must have had the same idea. There were tons of teenagers, drunk college students, and in general, it just seemed like a bad time to go. Surprisingly, my daughter was unfazed, so I just dealt with it. I planned to spend most of the day sitting by the pool at the bottom of the tallest slide in the water park. It was an easy landmark to find me in case she ever got lost. She could go off and do whatever, as long as she came by and checked in every hour or so. Of course, this wasn't without Quinn trying to convince me to go on the other slides with her. She'd been attempting to get us to go together since the very first time we went, but I could never do it. I was always scared as hell of heights. Besides, I wasn't just there to relax. I had work to do. I found a spot that didn't get splashed on and started grading papers. Toward the end of the day, she came around and told me she was ready to go home after she went on one more slide, the big one. She always saved it for last, partially because she knew it was the one I was most afraid of her going on. I could ignore it when it was just everyone else, but the moment she started climbing those steps, it was all I could think about. It started with a huge tower of rickety-looking wooden steps, leading up to a huge drop straight down, and a bunch of twists and turns through an unlit tunnel. The stuff of my nightmares. Everyone who came out the bottom was screaming, either looking relieved or terrified. Part of me always contemplated forcing myself to do it, but I didn't want to end up like the people in Final Destination. For about half an hour, I watched my daughter slowly ascend the tower. Then she disappeared when she got near the top platform. I was paying attention to the regular dumping of people out of the bottom of the slide into the pool, trying to see if I could predict when she would come out. Soon after she was out of sight though, something unusual happened. The flow of people out of the pipe stopped. It suddenly got a lot quieter, as there weren't as many people screaming and splashing into the pool. I thought, maybe people at the top had chickened out and were holding up the line. Then, I looked down to think about my work for a second, when all of a sudden, the slide burst open. I looked up and saw bodies falling out of the sky. It felt like it was happening in slow motion. The entire thing was collapsing. Some people were landing in the trees, but others were crashing into rocks and concrete. There were dozens of them raining down, trying to cling to each other on the platform. When everything had fallen, even more chaos ensued. I rushed into the rubble to search for my daughter, ignoring everyone else.
Gwen, where are you? I'm coming! Hold on!
As the dust settled, and more people came to help the survivors, I was finally able to get Quinn away from the horrifying catastrophe, hoping to get her to the hospital as soon as possible. About 15 minutes later, multiple paramedics arrived and transported us along with other injured victims from the park. I rode with her in the ambulance and waited outside her bed at the ER. I was there when she unfortunately passed. The doctors told me that there was nothing that could have been done. The impact from the fall had crushed her spine and caused internal bleeding that could never be stopped quick enough to save her life. Losing a child is the worst thing that can happen to a parent. I wanted something or someone to turn my anger against, but it turned out that the collapse wasn't the water park's fault at all. It was a bunch of other dumb teen park goers who were to blame. A bunch of them were doing a challenge called clogging, where they try to see how many of themselves can cram into a slide at once. But after 40 of them were in it at once, the structure couldn't handle the load. It was supposed to be their senior prank, but because of them, my daughter never saw her senior year. I was unable to continue teaching after the incident. Ever since that day, my life has felt completely meaningless. My only accomplishment is that I'm still here, despite everything. This story was inspired by a horrific incident that happened in Waterworld, USA in Concord, California. A group of Napa students went on their annual senior class outing when something truly disturbing went down, literally. The tradition known as clogging entailed cramming as many individuals as practical in a water slide by trucking their legs against the walls of the chute. The current record before them stood imposingly at 76, set in another aquatic playground. As twilight approached, with a rebellious spirit, the group chose to flout the lifeguards' cautions, confident that expulsion from the premises would be the least of their troubles. Their audacity, however, accumulated in catastrophe when a multitude crammed themselves onto the bonsai pipeline, a slide that towers 40 feet above the ground. This act of defiance proved too much, causing a fatal falter that saw the structure yield to the pressure, leading to a horrific descent of bodies to plummet to the ground. English teacher Justin Aaron engaged in marking papers at the slide's foot when the disaster struck, witnessing the horrifying scene. I looked up and saw bodies flying through the air. They were landing in trees, on the rocks and on the concrete. It was like it was happening in slow motion, Aaron said. In the heart-wrenching event, Quimby Gilotti, a student about to graduate, tragically lost her life, while 32 others sustained substantial injuries. I was just going to the grocery store to get snacks for my wife She was pregnant and having intense cravings for all sorts of things. Some of them were weird, like pickles dipped in mayo, but most of them were fairly normal, like saltine crackers and cookies. I had gotten almost everything on my list except for the stuff in the cookie aisle. I loaded up on a few cartons of chocolate chip cookies. Then I thought about getting a couple tubes of Pillsbury Doughboy biscuit dough. I was sure my wife would love some fresh baked biscuits to satisfy her cravings. However, there was just one problem. Some weirdo was hogging up all the space in the aisle around the Pillsbury products. I idled around him for a few minutes, expecting him to eventually move on, but as I watched him out of the corner of my eye, I realized he was much more of a nut job than I thought. At one point, I saw him pick up a tube and lick the Pillsbury Doughboy. At this point, I was completely turned over in awe at the absolute specimen I was in the presence of. He looked like an old, washed up, cracked out version of the Pillsbury Doughboy himself, but bulging out of a filthy tank top. The giant tattoo of the Pillsbury Doughboy on his shoulder and arm confirmed the unhealthy obsession. Despite all this though, I was still determined to get my hands on a can of Pillsbury biscuits, preferably one the freak hadn't licked. I slowly made my way over, hoping that he wouldn't notice me in his trance. There was one can on the shelf between us that seemed far enough away from him that I could grab it. I reached for it, but then out of nowhere, the guy snapped and swiped everything off the shelf into his cart. I started shitting bricks. As the man mean-mugged the hell out of me, I quickly backed away, accepting the fact that it wasn't worth getting into it with someone who was clearly out of their mind. I left the aisle and checked out with what I had. Then I left the store and got on the road home. I didn't think the interactions would have any other consequences for me other than a lack of biscuits, but I was horribly wrong. I was driving down the road when out of nowhere, a car sped up from behind me. It whipped around like it was going to pass, but then it matched my speed and started driving alongside me. The window rolled down, revealing the same Pillsbury Doughboy psycho.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven.
Before I knew it, he swerved into my lane. He almost crashed right into me and ran me off the road. I slammed the brakes to stop on the sidewalk before heading into some ditch. He then parked in front of my car, blocking me from reversing. I didn't even have time to get my bearings under me before the psycho got out of his car. I was finally at my wit's end with this guy, so to avoid us getting back on the road, I got out to confront him. Once again, I was completely unprepared for how things would go down.
What the hell is wrong with you? Don't mess with me. I'll crack a can of biscuits over your head. Why are you trying to kill me over something so stupid? Just get over it. You messed with my dough, boy.
Dude, look at you. Share some food with the rest of us, you fat piece of shit.
No, he's my doughboy. There's only room for one person to poke him deep in that stomach, and it's me, not you. I won't let you touch him.
Jesus, you really are insane. What do you really do with those tubes, huh? I bet you shove them way up.
Shut up!
I'm right, ain't I? Yeah, just get back to your car and go home. You sick, twisted, loose loser. Holy shit. Chill out, man. It's not that serious.
Ah! Somebody help me! This guy's trying to poke me with his stick! Help!
Don't, please.
Bystanders had called the cops the second they saw the road rage get out of hand, and luckily, there was a cop around the block that arrived in time. Otherwise, I'm sure that psycho would have slaughtered me in the street. I wasn't seriously injured, despite how bad it looked at the time, and thankfully, the cops caught him a few days later. It's been difficult for me to move past what happened. I still can't believe I came so close to death. And over what? Some Pillsbury Doughboy products? Sure, that stuff is good, but it's not to die for. I can't imagine what it's like in the mind of someone who's willing to kill for it. One thing's for sure, if that guy does what I think he does with those tubes, he's getting along just fine in prison. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a man who has a distinctive Pillsbury Doughboy tattoo on his right forearm and has multiple warrants for criminal offenses. The Asheville Police Department arrested the man after a verbal altercation turned into a shootout early Monday morning. According to the department, a man rammed into another man's vehicle and then began letting off with a firearm following a verbal altercation around 4 a.m. When police officers arrived on scene, they witnessed a man being chased by another vehicle. The offender fled the area. Police said no one was hurt during the incident. Shortly after, officers located the vehicle belonging to the offender, which was found to be unoccupied. After further investigation, officials said 38-year-old Tony Dale Roberts was identified as the suspect. Roberts is described as 5'11" and 165 pounds with brown hair and blue eyes. He has a tattoo of the Pillsbury Doughboy on his right forearm and a scar on the right of his neck. Roberts was taken into custody and booked into the Buncombe County Detention Center with no bond. My second husband, Alan, was a wonderful man. He was raising his son from his first marriage when I met him, and I was also a single mother with my daughter at the time. Together, we created a new family and stayed together for years. He was a hard-working guy, of course. Despite being a grown man with children, Alan still had some immature tendencies that he needed to get sorted out. For instance, Alan had a thing where he would go overboard with drinking on certain celebrations, and no example was worse than the 4th of July. It was Alan's favorite holiday. He touted himself as the all-American patriot and made himself the center of attention every 4th of July celebration. Sadly, I don't mean that he took charge of coordinating cookouts and fireworks shows for the neighborhood, but that he would dress up like Uncle Sam and make a damn fool of himself every year. He would find out where everyone was gathering and go there after drinking a bunch of beer all afternoon, then start dancing and yelling a bunch of nonsense. He even carried a tip jar around with him like some strung-out bum. I have to be honest, I hated it so much. Everyone else in the neighborhood seemed to love it though, egging him on and even throwing money at him. It always made me feel like I'd married a clown. It creeped the kids out too, because they would always wonder why their daddy was acting so strange and scary. I asked people around the neighborhood if we should talk to Alan, but everyone would tell me that he was just doing it to help people have a good time, and maybe scrape up a few extra bucks for us. Despite the problems I had with Alan's Uncle Sam routine, I tried my best to be supportive, but then one year, Alan threw me another curveball. He wanted to add fireworks to his act. I was immediately against the idea, as whenever he was Uncle Sam, he was piss-drunk Uncle Sam. I knew nobody that intoxicated should ever mess around with fireworks, not even the little stuff like firecrackers, let alone anything more dangerous. Unfortunately, Alan's mind was already made up, and it caused one of our only nasty fights.
Alan, you can't do this! What kind of example is that gonna set for our kids?
Are you saying I'm too stupid to handle some fireworks? I've been setting them off my whole life and didn't get hurt. What's the difference now?
You're drunk, you idiot! I don't want you to blow your hand off.
Oh, right. Because then I wouldn't be able to work and pay for all your goddamn bills anymore, right? Or maybe because I won't be able to tickle your sausage wallet anymore.
God damn it! You know that's not what I meant.
Then get off my case, you nagging bitch! Just leave me alone, or I'm calling the cops!
Our kids witnessed the fight too. Alan stormed off with his tip jar and his fireworks and left us in the dust. I had to calm the kids down for a while before we were ready to join everyone at the park. By the time we got there, Alan was even more wasted than he was when he was screaming at me. He was at the point he could barely put a coherent sentence together, but that didn't stop everyone from enjoying the yearly pre-fireworks show featuring good old Uncle Sam. They thought they were waiting until showdown for the big 4th of July show to start, but they didn't realize that Uncle Sam had brought his own gunpowder that year, so nobody was prepared to stop him.
Hear ye, hear ye! Gather round for a show of patriotism. I'm Uncle Sam, and this is my bag of trips.
Oh, God.
First things first, I need you to come on. You know. Whatever. Good enough. Alright, straight to the point. My wife, the stupid bitch, thinks I can't operate this here firework rocket.
No, Alan, please.
So, for my first trick, I am gonna be the cannon. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Uncle Sam is doing it for all the Americans.
Alan, stop! Take it off!
What was that? I can't hear you over.
My entire reality shattered in that moment. It was like a scene from a horror movie, but it was real. I saw it. Our kids saw it. The entire neighborhood witnessed it. The cops were the first to arrive, but they knew there was nothing that could be done. The paramedics couldn't save him and pronounced him dead on arrival. Every 4th of July since then, this moment just plays in my head over and over again. This story was inspired by a horrific 4th of July incident regarding a South Carolina dad who was seen dancing in his front yard while dressed as Uncle Sam, moments before he passed away after igniting a large firework on the top of his head. Alan Ray McGraw, 41, had been celebrating the 4th of July on Thursday evening at a neighborhood block party in Somerville, Dorchester County, dressed as Uncle Sam. Footage captured by his wife Paige showed McGraw dancing a jig in his full festive outfit as he celebrated the holiday. Witnesses told investigators that McGraw had placed a large firework on the top hat he was wearing before lighting it, causing the device to explode. McGraw's wife told deputies she believed he placed the firework on his head to show off and was drunk at the time. McGraw was found lying irresponsive in the road by deputies who rushed to the scene after the party came to an abrupt end. It was said that the exploding device had caused massive head trauma that took out McGraw instantly. His wife Paige said she had been telling him to stop playing with the fireworks before it exploded and did what it did. She told the outlet, "He was holding this firework over his top hat. I thought he was just showboating before he set it on the ground. I didn't realize he had already lit it."
The Walmart I work at closes at midnight, later than most locations. I work the nights, cleaning, stocking, and helping customers find what they need so they can get out and get the store ready for the morning. And with any night shift worker, I also have to deal with what I like to call the night people. They usually like to loiter, shoplift, shoot up in the washroom, or wander around until myself or another worker tells them to piss off. Those who are unacquainted with these night people might think I'm exaggerating, but I swear, it feels like I'm working in an asylum sometimes. By far, the worst encounter I've ever had with one of these freaks happened recently. It started around an hour before we closed, so there weren't many regular people left in the store. I was in the freezer section near the back, stocking up the pre-made dinners. While I had my face buried in the freezer, I noticed a woman passing behind me. She was talking under her breath, but nobody was with her, so I watched her over my shoulder as she went by. Her cart was full, and judging by how slowly she was going, she seemed to be struggling to push it. But what creeped me out was how she looked exactly like zombie Michael Jackson from Thriller. Like she just came crawling out of a graveyard. I noticed this woman would twitch every 5 seconds, snapping her neck to the side. I felt bad, assuming it had to be a condition of some kind. However, I knew I had to keep my eye on her, so I stopped what I was doing and carefully followed her from a safe distance. She eventually entered the bathroom, which was single occupancy, unlike the ones at the front. She left her cart outside and locked herself in. The bathroom happened to be close enough to the freezer section that I could listen for the door while I went back to stocking the freezers, so I kept an ear out for when she left. However, several minutes passed and I even finished unloading my pallet, yet the woman still hadn't left the bathroom. Her cart was still right there by the door when I came back with another pallet. By the time I finished unloading that, nearly half an hour had passed. I was getting worried that something was up in there. At best, she was asleep or shitting her brains out, but I knew from the way she was twitching earlier that she was more likely smoking or shooting something. I debated checking on her myself or getting one of my managers to do it, but I ended up convincing myself that I had to. I finished what I was doing, then went up to the bathroom door and knocked.
No way!
Ma'am, you can't stay in there all night. The store is closing, so...
Why can't you just leave me alone for 5 minutes?
Ma'am, it's been almost an hour.
Have you been stalking me, pervert?
What? No!
Then leave me alone before I report you to HR and tell them you like harassing MILFs!
After my first encounter with the tweaker, I didn't want anything to do with her. I just hoped she would take all her crap and leave the store. I figured she was the cashier's problem at that point. So a couple of minutes after midnight, I went over to talk with them while they were closing up the registers. I described what happened, and while they said they heard some shouting a little while ago, none of them had seen anyone matching the woman's description. They hadn't even rung out a person with more than 10 items since 11:30, which meant that woman with all the stuff in her cart was still wandering around the store. This began a store-wide manhunt for her, since our guy on the security cameras was useless at his job. Of course, as luck would have it, I was the one who found her, and I was totally unprepared for what I saw. She was in a back corner of the store, digging through her cart and eating everything like a wild animal. Oh my god.
Hey, you can't eat that shit if you didn't buy it, dumbass! Hey guys, I found her, she's over here! God damn it, give me that!
My god.
Get this corpse off me! Help! Somebody help me!
That tweaking psycho freak nearly took a bite out of my face, but my coworkers saved me at the last second. I wish I had waited for them to show up before confronting her, but I got ahead of myself and it almost cost me my life. The cops came and arrested her, finding the source of her strength to be 3 syringes worth of street-level crank, which explains why she had superhuman strength after coming out of the bathroom. I still work the night shift at Walmart, and I still deal with insane night people all the time, but none of them have ever scared me as much as that woman. This story was inspired by a weird incident regarding a Florida woman who faces theft and narcotics charges after driving a motorized shopping cart through Walmart while eating and drinking items from the store. Joseline Lopez, 25, allegedly did meth and then exhibited odd behavior at a Walmart in Lecanto. She had a half-empty bottle of wine in her cart and ate sushi, mini muffins, cinnamon rolls, rotisserie chicken, according to the Citrus County Sheriff's Office. Police responded to a call from Walmart on December 22nd that Lopez was being held after consuming $32.36 worth of food and wine inside the store. Deputies found 3 empty syringes in her possession after arresting Lopez. She told detectives that she had used the syringes earlier to do her business. Lopez, who said she was homeless, told a deputy that she was hungry and did not want to take any of the items outside of the store, but did consume everything she could while inside the store. She further states that she knew what she was doing was wrong, however, did it anyway.
This happened during the summer, after my little sister graduated from high school. I had just finished my 3rd year in college and was visiting home for the first time in several months. We wanted to go to the water park one day to celebrate our summer vacations together. The closest water park to us was called Wild Water Adventure, which we had been to a few times as kids. This was the first time we ever went without our parents though. Nothing looked quite as fun as it did when we were younger, but we still went down a few slides and swam around a bit. Eventually, we got tired of being on our feet, so we ate some food, then laid back in the lounge chairs next to the lazy river to catch some sun. That was probably the quietest part of the park, so we were able to relax despite how crowded it was. That was until the one vacant chair next to us became occupied by the worst person imaginable. He was this 50-something creepy uncle-looking weirdo with a Hawaiian shirt halfway unbuttoned and a pair of shorts showing off his mats of body hair. The smell coming off of him was so unbelievable that I don't even want to remember it. He had a cocktail in his hand, probably his 9th or 10th, but the booze was the nicest aroma he had going for him. The worst part was how he instantly started looking and smiling at us, and we could just tell by his face that he had some illegal shit on his hard drive. Obviously, we tried to ignore him, but we knew he wasn't going to keep his mouth shut.
Hey, ladies. Nice day, isn't it? So, you two are suntanning, right? You know I never liked tan lines. I always preferred my women tanned all over, from slit to nip.
That is so disgusting. I hope you choke to death on shit. Now leave us alone before I call the cops, perv.
After he forced his conversation on us, we got up and left the lazy river to find a different area of the water park with lounge chairs to chill in. Most of the time, even the dumbest creeps understand the physical action of storming off. But not even a minute after we sat down, that creep showed up again. This time, instead of coming up to us, he sat down across the pool and just stared at us. It was almost as creepy as what he said the first time. But again, we hoped that if we just ignored him or kept giving him the evil eye that he would give up and move on. It took about 5 minutes, but he eventually got up and left, seemingly leaving us alone. We didn't see him come back for a bit, so we thought he was finally gone. At last, we could lay back and shut our eyes again without having to worry about some guy creeping on us. Well, that's what I was hoping for. At some point after we let our guard down, I felt the sun suddenly disappear while my eyes were closed. It looked like it was getting cloudy from the amount of shade I was getting, but when I opened my eyes, I saw what was actually going on. It turned out to be my worst nightmare, because that same pervert was back. This time, he was standing over us in a full trench coat.
What the helly? What are you doing here?
Relax. I just wanted to show you how I suntan.
No!
Right before my eyes, he opened his coat at us. God, the image is still burned into my retinas. I can't unsee it. Every weary hair and wrinkle, and the goddamn crust. It makes me want to throw up just thinking about it. My sister and I got up and grabbed our towels and shoved him into the pool. We didn't know what else to do and we didn't want to touch him, but we couldn't just run and have him chase us barefoot through the park. He even kept laughing while he was in the pool, never taking his eyes off of us. The lifeguard saw everything and blew the whistle to evacuate the pool. Everybody got out except for him. We immediately left and hid behind some pool house, while a group of good Samaritans fished him out of the pool like a biohazard and apprehended him until the cops showed up. They arrested the pervert and asked a bunch of questions about what happened. All I know was that man actually ended up on the news, looking all sad and pitiful in his mugshot. I think about this creep every summer, whenever it gets warm, and my friends start to talk about going to the beach or the springs or the water park. It's all tainted because of him and what he did, not just in front of me, but to my little sister. Neither of us can go out in bathing suits anywhere without constantly being afraid that some disgusting pig will traumatize us all over again. I was used to weirdos trying to flirt with me and being creepy around me in situations like that, but I always thought the fact that it was a public setting would deter those kinds of men from going too far. On that day, I learned that some people just can't or won't control themselves, and I've never forgotten it since. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a man suspected of revealing himself at a water park called Wild Water Adventure Park in Clovis. The suspect is a 52-year-old man named Robert King. Deputies say they received several calls on Monday about a man touching himself while sitting in a lounge chair near the wave pool, while several guests were nearby. A witness later identified King as the suspect. King was booked into the Fresno County Jail on charges of indecent exposure, but authorities are asking anyone who may have witnessed the incident at Wild Water Adventure Park to please call the Fresno County Sheriff's Office.
The The worst part of living alone is never really knowing if you're actually alone. It ruins my sleep. When I'm in bed, I always hear noises coming from downstairs even though I know logically that nobody else is in the house. It sounds like someone's strolling around in my kitchen, sometimes even creeping up the stairs. I'm terrified every single night. One of the only things that seems to help me is an old childhood treat: milk and cookies. My favorite kind of cookies are the Pillsbury Doughboy ones. I just pop them in the oven, and then a few minutes later, bam! A dozen delicious fresh-baked cookies. I like to have a couple to help me relax before bed. I like to make about 2 batches a night, eating the first one downstairs, then taking the second one up to set on my nightstand. Whenever I think I hear something or get a wave of anxiety about someone being in the house, I sit up and have a Pillsbury dough cookie dunked in milk. It's the only thing that has kept me sane. However, one night, after tossing and turning after eating cookies in my sleep, I remember hearing odd noises coming from downstairs. It definitely sounded like someone or something was down there. I couldn't tell if I was actually getting robbed or if I was just hearing things. I slowly started making my way downstairs to see for myself if I was, in fact, alone in the house. I crept down the stairs, terrified of what I might see. I left the lights off to conceal my presence, though it felt like my heart was beating so loud it was going to give me away. When I reached the last step, I peeked around the corner and looked into the kitchen, and saw one of the most horrifying things ever. The fridge door was open, and some fat, white figure was shoving their face inside it and eating all my food. After all this time, there was really someone sneaking around my house. I couldn't believe I never noticed missing food or that I never had the courage to check the house at night. I was scared, but I knew I was going to have to put a stop to it once and for all. I grabbed the nearest weapon I could find on the kitchen counter and armed myself with it, just in case things got ugly.
Hey! What are you doing in my house?
Relax, I belong here.
Oh my god, it's really you. I must be seeing shit.
I'm not shit. I'm the Pillsbury Doughboy.
I can't believe this shit. Your cookies have helped my anxiety so much.
That's how I roll. You must be my biggest fan. How adorable.
I saw you bend over my fridge and, well, I could see your donuts. Anyway, why are you eating all my food, Mr. Doughboy?
Don't believe everything you see, weirdo.
What kind of deal is this? I spend all my money on your cookies just so you can eat the rest of my food? You need to get the hell out of my house and never come back.
You can't kick me out. I belong here. Do you get it?
No, I don't. Now get out of my house or I'm calling the cops.
Do not piss me off.
Stay back. Don't come any closer.
There's nowhere to run.
Get away from me.
Why?
I just want to go back to my room.
Do you want to play?
I'm very confused.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Stay away from me. Please, don't hurt me.
I don't want to hurt you. I just want to roll you to your grave.
I bet you won't laugh when I poke you this time. I cried myself to sleep last night. I was so ashamed and sorry for what I did to that poor Pillsbury Doughboy, but at least I could finally sleep soundly for the first time in ages. I imagined he wouldn't even think about coming back to my house after that, if he was even still alive. Strangely, though, there was this nagging feeling of sadness that I couldn't shake, even in the morning. Then I went out of my room and discovered my son's lifeless body in a pool of blood at the bottom of the stairs. That damn doughboy wanted revenge, so he took it out on my son and dumped him in my house. I called the police, ready to tell them everything, only for them to put me in handcuffs and take me away. No matter what I told them, they kept telling me there was no Pillsbury Doughboy and that the blood was on my hands. I'll never believe them. I know what I saw. I know what I did.
My next door neighbor makes my skin crawl. She's this ghoulish old woman that follows everyone around, and since I live so close to her, she gives me the most attention. Nobody likes her because she's a total Karen, but they don't know the half of it. She likes to follow me outside when I put my trash out. She even goes through my garbage, ensuring all the bags are tied properly and the recycling is sorted. The only reason everyone lets her get away with what she does is that she's super old. So I guess we're all just waiting for her to drop dead. Unfortunately, that day can't come soon enough. Ever since her husband passed away, which was probably the happiest day of that poor bastard's life, she thinks she's the neighborhood's hot new cougar. My bedroom windows just so happen to face her house, so I see her a lot when I'm going in and out of my room. I've tried to ignore her as she's not technically committing any crimes, but she just gives me these weird stares every time I pass through. I know she's just a retired old woman with nothing to do in her life, but I wish she would find something else to occupy herself that wasn't me. However, as time kept passing, things only got worse. I came to realize that she was basically always watching me, so I made sure she knew I was aware by making direct eye contact with her for a few seconds. This was a mistake. She took it as a sign to take it even further. These days, she tends to sit there with a whole plate of cookies, slowly eating every single one of them and watching me like a perv. One night, everything finally boiled over with her. I was sitting in my living room, trying to watch TV, but mostly just avoiding her line of sight when there was a knock at the door. It was late enough that I instinctively knew it was my neighbor. I didn't know what she wanted, but I knew it wasn't going to be good, so I quickly turned off the TV to kill the light. I sat there for a few seconds before there was another knock, and then that horrid voice of hers came through the front window. I looked over and saw her staring at me. She was showing off all her rotten teeth and holding a plate full of cookies. Then she made a gesture at me to open the door. Lord knows I didn't want to, but I knew it was the only way to get her to leave. When I opened the door, she thrusted a plate of cookies at me. She said she made them from scratch, but they were unmistakably store-bought Pillsbury Doughboy cookies. Regardless, she wanted to share them with her neighbors as some kind of olive branch. I accepted them, wondering why the old hag was being nice all of a sudden, but then what happened next threw that out the window.
Thanks, I'll return the plate tomorrow. Anyways, have a good night.
Wait! Aren't you forgetting something?
No. What is it?
Come now, you have to try one.
Oh, I'm actually good for now. I just ate dinner, so I'm kind of getting ready for bed now. I'll be sure to try one in the morning, though.
But how else will I know if I did a good job? Don't make me wait until morning. My old heart can't handle that much anxiety.
All right. Just a bite.
That's fine. Just one bite is all it takes.
Against my better judgment, I took a cookie and ate a decently sized bite to avoid being rude. For the most part, it was okay, but there was a weird, kind of bitter aftertaste. Still, it was good enough for me to fake a positive reaction and get her off my doorstep. Once she was finally gone, I left the rest of the cookies out on the counter and went to bed. I knew she'd be watching me, and I didn't want her to think I was lying earlier. I saw her staring at me across the way, smiling like always, but this time, for some reason, raising 2 thumbs up at me. I didn't know what she meant by that, so I shrugged it off and got in bed. I was able to sleep, but a few hours later, I woke up with the worst stomach pain of my life. My whole body was convulsing, sending an unstoppable surge of vomit out of me. I tried to roll off the bed and get to the bathroom for what I knew was coming next, but I physically couldn't bring myself to even crawl. All I was able to do was reach up and grab my phone off my bedside table and call 911. By the time the paramedics found me, I felt like a towel that had been wrung out by a bodybuilder, with all the fluids in my body completely expelled. I was taken to the hospital and treated, where I of course survived, and got to find out the culprit of my suffering. Rat poison! I told the police the test batch of cookies my neighbor gave me, and sure enough, there was enough rat poison in them to kill a room full of people. If I'd had just one whole cookie, I probably would have died while that wretched woman watched. I'm more than glad she was arrested and finally removed from my life. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a 72-year-old woman who was arrested for mailing a package of Pillsbury Doughboy cookies laced with mouse poison and laxative. to a Stillwater resident. Stillwater police charged Joanne O. Jones of Slingerlands with second-degree reckless endangerment, a misdemeanor, for allegedly sending the tainted cookies in March. A lengthy investigation revealed the woman sent the snack. The recipient of the package did not consume the cookies and contacted police. Jones recently surrendered to police. She was released pending a future town court appearance. I was lucky enough to have met my wife in high school, eventually marrying her and starting our own family. We had a son named Jamie. He grew up to be around 12 years old when this occurrence happened, which just happened to be on American Independence Day. It was supposed to be a good day on July 4th. My neighborhood hosted a block party at the local community park before the big annual fireworks show. When we got there, the place was already packed. There were flags waving, large groups of families dispersed everywhere, and some people out with their lawn chairs waiting for the fireworks show to start. There were food trucks along the sidewalks. That's when my wife asked if I could grab some food from the food trucks. I agreed, but just before I went, I saw him. A beat-up, dark-colored sedan pulled up across the street from the park, and in there was a young man just sitting there, watching us. He had this look that scared the shit out of me. His face was covered in tattoos. I didn't want to judge him by his appearance, but the guy looked like some gang member or someone just there trying to stir up trouble. He seemed to be intrigued by everyone, staring at the direction of some teenage girls near a taco truck. That's when I asked my wife.
Hey Claire, do you see that guy over there in the car?
Yeah? Who is that?
I don't know. Something just feels off.
He's probably just waiting for someone.
I'm gonna just grab the food. You two stay here, alright?
Of course, we'll be right here.
I walked to the nearest food truck and stood in line. I kept glancing back to see if the car had left or something, but it unfortunately was still there. The man hadn't moved. He just sat there, watching. After several minutes of waiting, I finally made it to the food truck to place my order. That's when I heard it, a loud bang, followed by another. At first, I thought the fireworks had started early, but then came the screams. I turned around and saw people running, pushing, shoving, dropping their food and drinks everywhere in a frantic state. More bangs echoed through the air, and that's when I finally realized what they were. Someone was letting off either fireworks or a firearm into the crowd. I ducked for cover, hiding along with a large group of people behind the food trucks. I was scared shitless. The only two people in my mind was my wife and son.
Claire!
I couldn't see them. People were running and scattering everywhere, making it near impossible to find them in the chaos. But after a few minutes of surveying the area, I saw her, my wife. She was lying on the ground, and Jamie was kneeling beside her, sobbing, holding her hand, screaming for help.
No! No! Somebody help us! Ah!
I couldn't stop screaming, no matter how much I tried to call for help. Everyone was in survival mode. I was helpless. I could hear the sirens from a distance, which meant the police and paramedics were on the way. But every minute seemed like forever. I was numb, barely seeing the flashing lights as they carried her to the ambulance. They wouldn't let me ride with her. They said they needed space to work on her. My son and I got to the hospital, praying and begging for the best possible outcome. But then the doctor came out and gave us the worst possible news, saying my wife had passed and that there was nothing they could do to save her. And just like that, I lost my wife forever. I dropped to my knees in front of the doctor and lost my shit. The next day, the news exploded with headlines, and on the screen was the face of a familiar man. It was him, the guy in the car. The suspect turned out to be a 21-year-old man named Robert Cremo. Police say he is the person of interest in the random attack at the 4th of July parade. It was alleged that he was a criminal that had a long history of offenses. What makes this story all the more disturbing was that he didn't have any real motive. He didn't have any connection to anyone in the park. He just wanted to take people out. It was just random terror. Footage showed that he opened fire from his driver's seat while screaming,
I'm gonna get ya! I'm gonna get ya! I'm gonna get ya!
They caught him later that night. When police approached him, he was crouched on the floor, smiling back at them with no signs of remorse. It's been a year now. My son Jamie is in therapy. As for me, I barely sleep. I still see my wife Claire in my dreams, but sometimes I also see that guy. I see him smiling back at me with a firearm pointed at me. People tell me I was lucky, but it doesn't feel like luck when you lose someone important. Every time 4th of July creeps back around, my son and I stay home because every time we hear fireworks, we think it's that guy coming back for more. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a man named Robert E. Cremo III, the suspect responsible for a deadly mass attack at a July 4th parade in Highland Park, Illinois. At least 6 people were taken out in the firearm attack, and dozens were injured. Police said the suspect appeared to carry his attack out from a rooftop. Witnesses described frantically fleeing when they realized they heard loud bang sounds and not fireworks. Authorities said that Cremo was spotted by a North Chicago officer who attempted to initiate a traffic stop. Cremo then fled and led the officers on a brief pursuit before being stopped in Lake Forest, Illinois. He has been arrested by the police and taken into custody. When asked, authorities said they are still calling Cremo a person of interest while they investigate and connect him to the scene. Allegedly, the event was scheduled to include floats, marching bands, and community entertainment as part of the city's Independence Day celebrations. But what should have been one of the happiest days of the year quickly turned into panic, with pushchairs, purses, and lawn chairs left discarded on the street as crowds fled from the scene. Working the evening shifts at Walmart has probably been the worst job I've ever had. I work retail on the lifeless concrete floors at my local Walmart supercenter. The one good thing about working at Walmart is it seems to be a place where I can get away with being kind of a bitch to people. The whole place is full of gross weirdos shopping in their underwear, unattended children running around and screaming, and entitled Karens who love to power trip at the expense of minimum wage workers. However, my negativity pales in comparison to my coworker Paige. She and I started there around the same time, so we were work besties, but we never hung out together outside of our shifts. I didn't want to get close with her because she had a habit of creeping me out. She had this drooping lazy eye that stared at me while her head was in the opposite direction, and would often say creepy shit like, "I wish my boss dies so we can go home early," stuff like that. Aside from that, I actually didn't mind her. She didn't take shit from anyone. She'd lash out at customers, co-workers, and even managers. Despite getting written up several times and verbally threatened to get fired by our managers, Paige managed to stick around for a while. To her credit, she didn't cause problems. It's just that she had a really short fuse. But something really disturbing happened recently. Paige caught me talking shit about her behind her back. I never expected to be at the receiving end of one of her blow-ups, but I finally understood why nobody liked her. She screamed right in my face some of the nastiest stuff anyone's ever said to me.
"You lowlife, whale-looking bitch! If I ever hear you talking shit about me again, you're gonna lose more than just your job. You got that?"
We both got suspended for a week, and when we came back, I saw bandages around her wrists. I always knew she had some mental problems, but I never realized they were that serious. I felt terrible for my part in what she did, so I tried to fix things. Unfortunately, Paige was totally through with me, and now it was like I was just another stupid, annoying co-worker to her. She became a lot more reserved though. I thought she had finally started to work on things, but then one night, all of the stuff she was bottling up came out. I was stocking shelves when I heard Paige talking with another customer in the other aisle. It sounded like a bitter old lady, and Paige seemed to be in a worse mood than usual. Before I knew it, she exploded. I ran over to get it under control, literally having to hold her back from hitting that woman.
"You're dead, bitch! I'm gonna rip your dentures out and staple them to your other lips!"
Paige, stop! What the hell are you doing?
"I'm gonna kill this dried-up slut!"
Paige, stop it! Checkout is over there, ma'am. Hey, let's get out of here.
"You're first on the list! You know that? You're gonna be first!"
I took Paige screaming and swinging into the storage area, where I did my best to calm her down. It was the first time I'd spoken with her since we had gotten back from our suspensions a few weeks ago. Getting a good look at her for the first time in a while, I realized she had truly gone off the deep end. My effort to connect with her led me to an even more terrifying conclusion.
Paige, what's wrong with you? What's with all this stuff about a list?
You know, it's my list for my plan.
What are you planning?
I don't know. Can I trust you?
Yes, of course you can trust me. Just tell me what this list is.
It's my list of all the people that I want to kill.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I've been dreaming about coming here and killing every single person that's ever pissed me off. I want to watch them collapse like little dolls when I take them out, one by one. But for some, I want to see beg for mercy while they bleed out beneath my feet. Wouldn't that be nice? Tomorrow's my day off, you know. I think I'll stop by.
I think I'll call in sick tomorrow then, just in case I'm on this list of yours.
Great idea! Just make sure you don't snitch. I wouldn't want to make another list, you know.
That night, I left work and went straight home, making sure I wasn't being followed. Paige left me with no choice. I doubted that she could actually take out every single one of us, but I knew deep down she was going to try something. Someone was going to get hurt, whether it was her or countless others. I didn't bother reporting her to the general manager. I just called the police. Paige was arrested before she had a chance to come to the store. It's been a few weeks now, and I still feel shitty about the whole thing. Paige hasn't been released from jail either. I just hope they see how sick she is so that she can get the help she needs. This story was inspired by a downright disturbing incident regarding a Walmart employee who allegedly threatened to take out her co-workers after experiencing haunting dreams for months. The woman was 20-year-old Keelan Paige Pasco. A co-worker of Pasco reported that the woman told her a detailed plan about how she would kill dozens of other employees. The Arizona woman allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty event at her workplace, according to the court documents. The Walmart employee allegedly had an extensive hit list of 40 co-workers that she wanted to take out. The police noted that the co-workers said Pasco's alleged date of attack would have been March 2nd of 2025, as she had the day off. When the complainant tried to be dismissive of Pasco's plan, Pasco seemed irritated and said, "No one believes me," and also added that she was excited for the plan because, quote-unquote, that's how they'll know me. Investigators later interviewed the 20-year-old, who admitted to having the dream for 5 months that revolved around taking out co-workers she had real-world problems with. Pasco's comments led to her being arrested for making a terrorist threat.
I'm in the middle of a waking nightmare right now, all because of a trip my family took to the water park last summer. My daughter had been waiting all year for it, and she was especially excited for the brand new slide that had just been opened. The only problem we faced whenever we went to the water park is that we are both on the bigger side. The overweight genes just run in the family, and our daughter is the most overweight for her age out of all of us. My daughter's size also affects her ability to swim, so I brought her a custom flotation device that goes around her waist to keep her safe. It might look like a kiddie pool with a hole cut in the middle, but I promise it isn't. Unfortunately, when we got to the water park, the line for the new slide was over an hour long and went all the way up a giant hill. On top of that, everyone was staring and gawking at us the entire time, which was sadly nothing out of the ordinary. Even without the looks, though, the entire experience was an absolute nightmare to get through. The heat was suffocating. The incline made every step even more exhausting, and my daughter complained the entire time.
Daddy! I'm tired! I want to sit down!
You know you can't sit with your floaty on, dear.
Then take it off!
There's nothing I can do about the weather, sweetie. You know that.
I I don't care! It's so hot! Just hurry this shit up so I can order some McDonald's. I think I deserve a cheat meal.
By the time we finally managed to make it to the top, we were out of breath and sweating like we'd just run a marathon. The ordeal still wasn't over though. We still had to go up every single step to actually get to the slide. Because even in the 21st century, water parks haven't figured out how to install elevators on their slides. At last, after scaling the hillside and climbing up every single step, we were on the platform at the entrance to the slide. All I wanted to do was get in that tube and splash down in the pool below. But then we saw something completely unheard of. Right before letting people go down the slide, the worker forced everyone to step onto a scale. The thought that we might have climbed all that way just to be turned down at the last second sickened me. But at that moment, we had no choice but to try our luck. We approached the entrance to the slide with our fingers crossed, but I had no idea what would happen next.
Excuse me, sir. Your daughter has to step on the scale before she can go down the slide.
What? Is that really necessary?
Yes, it is. And you'll be weighing in after her.
Come on! What's even the weight limit?
400 pounds, sir.
Dad, how many 100 pounds am I?
You'll be fine, darling. Just step up there so you can use the slide, okay?
Okay.
Stand still, please. 405 pounds. Sorry, Miss Big. No slide for you.
What did you just say?
Suddenly, my daughter exploded in anger. She kicked the worker down the slide, then tried to force herself through after him. The only reason she didn't get through was because her floaty was too big to fit in the slide. When she got stuck, she started screaming and shaking the slide with her bare hands. Everyone could feel the structure swaying back and forth as people started to panic and rush down the steps. So with my options slim, I got behind my daughter and tried to push her through. I fell back as random men ran up and started pulling her out. I watched as they carried her over to the railing and heaved her over the edge. I heard the loudest splash of my life when she hit the water, so I made my way down the steps as fast as I could. When I got to the bottom, the lifeguards were just finally pulling my daughter out of the water. We were kicked out of the water park and banned for life immediately afterwards. Not only did they publicly humiliate her by forcing her to weigh herself in front of complete strangers, but they barred her from the experience she deserved, over 5 measly pounds.
This story was inspired by a bizarre incident regarding a man who claims a local water park publicly humiliated his daughter because of her weight. Andrew Batten said that he visited the Raging Rivers water park with his family, where his daughter was looking forward to riding a new ride called the Mississippi Monster Slide. When the teen got to the top of the hill to ride the attraction, a worker asked her to hop on a scale in front of strangers because it had a weight limit of 200 pounds. Batten said, "The guy looked at us and to my daughter and saying, 'You need to step on the scale.' She steps on the scale and she's 205, meaning she wasn't allowed on. The incident left his daughter distraught. Batten has since expressed his disappointment with the water park in a post on Facebook that has since been shared hundreds of times. Let's leave out the amazingly damaging psychological impact of forcing a young woman to publicly weigh herself, but to have to see my daughter's face, eyes welling up with tears as she was turned away for being 5 pounds over," he wrote. A spokesman for Raging Rivers Water Park said new tubes for the water slide had now been ordered so that its weight capacity could be increased, and has defended the workers' actions toward the teen.